Bart Ehrman, everyone's favorite. Bart Ehrman, Christian who became an agnostic, textual critic. Bart Ehrman.
I started out as a evangelical Christian. I got interested in biblical studies because I was actually a fundamentalist. But as I developed my scholarship through graduate school, I realized that my beliefs about the Bible were completely wrong, that the Bible is not some kind of inerrant revelation from God.
This is the inspired, preserved, authoritative Word of God.
I do have to tell you, if you think I'm going to change my mind, it ain't going to happen.
Christians tried to convert others by telling them stories to convince them that Jesus was raised from the dead, and they changed their stories while trying to convince people. There was nobody there taking notes. Some of the stories were invented, many were changed.
We know the stories got changed because there are numerous differences in our accounts that cannot be reconciled with one another. Read one story in Matthew and the same story in Mark and compare your two stories and see what you come up with. You come up with major differences.
You will find that there are stunning differences.
With the New Testament, though, you have all these thousands of manuscripts that are all different from each other.
You cannot help but begin to find discrepancies all over the map. There are too many discrepancies.
Oh, Christians have no choice but to call Jesus the Son of God because Jesus was identified as the Son of God by an unparalleled cloud of witnesses.
Not by people who were eyewitnesses.
None of the authors were eyewitnesses. These gospel writers were not the disciples of Jesus. People, of course, call the gospel books Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They call them Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John because we don't know who wrote these books, and there's no point calling them Sam, Fred, Jerry, and Harry. Whoever put that title on it was an editor later. The original books are all anonymous, written in the third person. Moreover, the followers of Jesus were Aramaic-speaking peasants from Galilee. These books are written in Greek by highly educated, rhetorically trained writers.
In John 11, Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even if he dies, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord, I have believed that you are the Christ, the Son of God."
John does not give us a historically reliable portrayal of Jesus. It is only in the Gospel of John that Jesus declares himself to be divine. Only the Gospel of John portrays Jesus as one who is himself God. You don't get that in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I and the Father are one. You don't find that teaching anywhere in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. These sayings about Jesus being divine are found in John and only in John. Did the others just not want to mention that part?
Bart Ehrman, we can say with complete certainty that some of his disciples at some later time insisted that he soon appeared to them, convincing them that he had been raised from the dead. Bart Ehrman again, it is a historical fact that some of Jesus' followers came to believe that he had been raised from the dead soon after his execution. They're taking this as historical fact.
He's taking things out of context. You can't prove the resurrection. It's not susceptible to historical evidence. These accounts that we have of Jesus' resurrection are not internally consistent. They're full of discrepancies, including the accounts of his death and his resurrection. They had believed Jesus was the Messiah, but then he got crucified, and so he couldn't be the Messiah. No Jew prior to Christianity thought that the Messiah was to be crucified. He's to be a figure of grandeur and power, not somebody who's squashed by the enemy like a mosquito.
You know what's cool about Ehrman, apart from the way he wrecks Jesus mythers? If you want to see Ehrman go off, watch an atheist tell him that there's no evidence that Jesus existed. Hilarious stuff.
We can know something about Jesus. That is absolutely right. My point is, the Gospels are not historically accurate. Not historically accurate. Not historically accurate presentations of who Jesus was and what he said and did. They might contain historical information, but the Gospels are full of discrepancies, contradictions, and historically false information. Virtually every scholar on the planet agrees with that, except for fundamentalists and very conservative evangelical Christians.
He says stuff like this. This is a Facebook post in which Ehrman lists his reasons for loving Christmas. Here at the end, he shares his final reason. The image of God it conveys. The God of Christmas is not a God of wrath, judgment, sin, punishment, or vengeance. He is a God of love, who wants the best for people and gives of himself to bring peace, joy, and redemption. That's a great image of a divine being. I think Bart Ehrman misses Jesus.
The idea that God had to subject his son to humiliation and pain by having him tortured to death for the sake of others. What kind of barbarian idea is that? What would anyone today think if I told you that in order for me to forgive you for something you had done against me, in order for me to make things right between us, I had to have my son maliciously tortured and bloodily murdered? Then I could forgive you. You would think I was literally nuts. The idea that God required a bloody sacrifice of an innocent man in order to forgive others is deeply disturbing to me now.